Really exciting. So this whole year progressed. Actually, after the 2018 Farm Bill where it legalized it, we were very intrigued. I had an uncle up in Minnesota that grew some. We went up and visited up there, and it was phenomenal. The whole community was involved. Growers, just small acreages, everybody working together, learning together. It was actually fairly inspirational. So absolutely, that's what really invigorated us about this project. So we wanted to come out and introduce this to western Nebraska. And here we have a full bay hemp seed feminized production. We have 3 different varieties, about 750 plants that are put in here. We selected 3 varieties, all well-known varieties in hemp production that have been proven out in the field already. We wanted to start there. We didn't want to have any additional problems. We have the best one that we selected variety. That's the one we'll breed back to the other 3. We also have a 4th in the vegetative stage right now that we're working on developing. Yep, the current varieties are Wife, Franklin, and Montana. We also have T1s, and we will crossbreed those and make new varieties from those.
Now, you chose those varieties specifically
because of their history and production levels and success that growers have had with them. They've been proven out in the field the last couple seasons. So this first year we're hoping about 15 million seeds that we'll produce this year. After this first churn in January with this first bay, we'll grow into the 5 additional bays of the greenhouse to get to full production. So it's feminized seed, and that's critical for oil production. As the plant grows, it's wanting to get pollen and get pollinated. We don't want that to happen. We want it to grow as large of flowers and as much biomass and yield as possible. So we don't want it to be pollinated. We don't want any male varieties in there to do that. That's why feminized seed is so critical. Your oil production and yield go down significantly. Yep, so we have all the plants in here were clones. They're all females. So we selected 50 plants. We took them in, we went through a process and actually turned them into male plants. So the male plants will pollinate with the female plants, and the seed, that's how you come up with feminized seed. So we're producers ourselves, so we want to make sure that in conjunction with the university, we want to make sure, number one, that our quality's there. Everything else, our germination, our testing will all be there. Another thing that we're going to do that's new to the hemp industry, we're going to coat the seed similar to a sugar beet, make them all the same, consistent size, much easier for growers to plant with their existing equipment and plates and
so
that.
When you say existing equipment, if they planted sugar beets or if they planted corn or if they plant wheat?
Absolutely. Yep. We'll have the exact plate that we'd recommend for each different type of planter and vacuum and all those things, and design it for farmers, because it's very overwhelming for a new producer to get into hemp. There's a big learning curve. So if we can be the solution to that for these growers, that's what we're striving for. So we're growing this seed and we're marketing it right now. We have a couple members of our team down in Las Vegas at a big convention down there. Through networking, everything else, that's a big task ahead of us as well. Absolutely. For growers that are producing it, you're absolutely right. We'd highly recommend have that in a contract, have it in writing, make sure that you have a place to sell and process your crop. Absolutely. I think locally here, where we're just introduced, if we're going to grow it here, we wouldn't recommend more than 10 acres. That'd be a very ambitious task. We're highly recommending just starting small, easing into this, include as many producers as possible and growers. And you don't have to be a farmer. That's what we learned up in Minnesota was, there was carpenters and eye doctors and dentists and, 2 to 3 acres. That's an excellent hobby and a profitable hobby. So absolutely, we do not want people to be overwhelmed, and we need to mitigate as much risk as possible. So it is labor intensive until these things get developed, and working on projects like this with the university to develop new technologies to help produce it. there's no, the EPA has not registered any, they do not have an approved herbicide label to this point. So it's all mechanical weed control. That's the biggest problem. So that's why you see a lot of fabric or plastic that it's transplanted in, but a lot of hand labor and weed removal and tillage. But yeah, but that also correlates with the value of the crop as well. It's not easy to grow.
So when people drive by and see the greenhouse lit up in the evening, industrial hemp has two different growth stages, one being a vegetative growth that requires more sunlight or the lights inside the greenhouse, and it being a light dependent crop. When the daylight starts getting shorter, the plant converts from vegetative growth to reproductive growth. And so people will notice driving by in the evening that the greenhouse lights are either on longer or not on as long, depending on the length of day. Right now, these plants are in a reproductive growth stage, so they don't require as much daylight or artificial light. When we go to the next stage of production, we will have daylight on, sunlight and artificial light on for 16 hours a day until it's ready to go into the reproductive growth stage. And therefore the lights will be on for a shorter period of time, as people notice when they're driving by on the highway. These plants are actually very hardy and resilient when it comes to water. They don't take as much water requirement as a corn crop, for instance, but they're like every other plant. At certain times of production, they do require specific water. On our 1 acre plot, we watered it with a garden hose and drip line and a well that only required 4 gallons a minute, I guess. And so for 1 acre, it didn't require extensive or intensive water, but it was very timely that the water needed to be applied. And one other thing that we did find very resilient about this crop this summer, in our test plot, we did endure 2 different hailstorms, and the crop is very resilient and managed to recover from both hailstorms in really good fashion, and ended up producing a nice crop with in light of the challenges from Mother Nature. Well, the genetics that we have chosen are specific for industrial hemp production, that are not anywhere at all based on its distant cousin. And so the focus being on industrial hemp, that's part of the reason why the genetics that we chose, as well as the crossbreeding program that we're going to implement. So we don't, so we feel that we'll be very, very safe in that process, that we don't have to worry about having an overwhelming impact from industrial hemp's cousin. Well, we're very excited about the opportunity for economic impact, not only with local area producers that want to take advantage of this opportunity, but also the opportunity for other manufacturing industries to get involved, from processing to harvesting, transportation. There's going to be a big impact, I think, from the local economy, not just what we're doing here at the greenhouse, but from a manufacturing standpoint, where we're manufacturing seed as well as manufacturing of other harvesting implements or processing equipment. Yeah, I think it will be a very easy transition for producers to go from raising, whether they're accustomed to raising corn, soybeans, or tomatoes in their backyard, that planting the seed and cultivating and harvesting will be a similar process to what they're accustomed to.